Hi everyone. This video is going to be a deep dive into the hot and cold water system design calculation method that I showed on the speed run. That's also going to be linked to the end of this video in case you haven't watched that. I'm going to go into the details of why I did what I did on most of the steps of that process and give some tips as to how to use h2x effectively. So let's get started. Now, the hot and cold water design that I set up in the speedrun video is just here. Now, during the setup of the actual project, we'll just run through the same steps. I gave it a name, call it DD for deep dive, and I set the project location, but you also have the ability to set a project number to line up with your internal documentation. Now, this will appear on reports and everything like that if you were to take the drawings or the reports out of the system on the export stage. Now, if I click on yes, I do want to use the template, which is what I would recommend if you were using h2x. This will essentially take across all of the pipe sizing calculation methodologies, the limiting velocities and pressure drops, and any other factors that have already been predefined on that project. You can see here it's already selected the water system, whereas in the speedrun video I had to deselect some of the other flow systems on there. It isn't just limited to that though. It's also all of the design parameters in the system settings before we even touch the system design. So if I go to the settings, you can see on the methods, we're currently calculating to BS806. A flick of this switch or a change of the parameter will automatically recalculate everything in the chosen peak flow rate standard methodology that you choose. You can also choose whether you're sizing to a maximum velocity or a maximum pressure drop rate or both in this menu. And you can do things like choose whether you're going to sum or take the highest value from hot and cold water units from the hot and cold water loading units from the same fixture. Now, the system settings for things like the cold water pipes, you can see here I've got main pipe work calculating at 1.5 meters per second, limiting velocity, and it's also being sized in copper. I've got separate branch pipe work, which when we connect the fixtures up using either the branch tool or the automatic connection, we'll bring in these pipes types. We can switch the pipe material here, and we can also set a differential sizing methodology. You also have the ability to create sub-flow systems, which will size differentially depending on where you draw them on the plan. If I switch over to hot water, I'll just make that change universal for the branch pipes. And at that point, we'll go back to the project. Now, running through the floor plans, we would first, as we did in the video, have to go through the levels. So the levels work based on the finished floor height difference from floor to floor. So if I click on here and click on edit level, you can see that my reduced floor height for level 1 is 3 meters above the ground floor, giving me a floor height difference of 3 meters that's shown on the ground floor at the moment. And if I add another level, you can see that that goes to 6 meters, but it's still a 3 meter floor height difference from level to level. Meaning, if I connect a pipe at 1 meter above the floor on level 1 and at 2 meters above the floor on level 2, those pipes will be connected via a 4 meter riser if I was to connect them through a rising pipe. Now, when you bring the plans in, after I've adjusted the levels, you can select them directly from your system viewer. Now, H2X only takes PDFs at the moment, so I've got Rev A and Rev B on there. If I align that to the first floor, as we did in the video, you can also set the levels, the scale and paper size in that toolbar as well. And you can delete and edit whatever plans you bring into this PDF editing space. You can use h2x to actually measure these plans as well using the custom scale tool and essentially calculate what size they should be or set what size they should be based on two set points. So that door is a meter wide at the moment. So pretty ideal, what we would expect. If it was 4 meters wide, we'd know that something's wrong and we would have to rescale that. Either setting a custom distance on those points or going and changing the scale again. Now, to align or not to align, it would depend on whether you have a standard sheet setup like we have got in these different revisions. Now, this blue crosshair is what I would use to align them within h2x, but it also serves a purpose at our later export stages, like when you want to export it into AutoCAD or into Revit. Now, if you didn't align them and you wanted to use our AutoCAD export, you wouldn't be able to reference your AutoCAD drawing to anything that you haven't aligned that point to. So for example, the corner of that sheet might not appear on your AutoCAD model space. So I would always recommend aligning it if you are planning to take it out of h2x in any form other than our PDF drawing or reports. Now that makes sure that those plans are aligned between the floors so that things like risers will appear in the correct place wherever we place them. So for example, if I place my risers against this back wall instead, you can see that if I go up to level 1, that appears in the correct position. So connecting that pipe from floor to floor. Okay, now switching over to design mode, the placement of the equipment is essentially a case of selecting what you want off the drop down menu and rotating it using the arrows on your keyboard. Now I'm pressing up on the arrow on my keyboard at the moment, and that's going to point the arrow on my tank up to the top of the screen. If I press down 4 times, and that would eventually point it down. It moves in 45-degree increments, but it goes in the direction of the arrow that you click on your keyboard. So if I place that down in space, we can then click onto that and look at our different specifications. So you can see there we've got a peak flow rate storage time, which h2x will use to calculate the required capacity. But it is on the designer to set what height above floor, what height the unit is, what width, what depth it is. You can also set what inlets are coming in and out of that. And if you were to set up, say, a freshwater cold flow system versus like a distribution cold water system, you could have full control on how those pipes look in the plan and how they size. Now, if I go to the equipment drop down up at the top again, we can also get a booster pump and stamp that down just to the right of the tank. Now you can see I hovered it over the top of the tank. And because I did that, I get this little blue crosshair here, which is now a alignment marker, which will allow me to align it both vertically and horizontally on the screen. So I can stamp that down directly next to it. On the pump, we've got a number of manufacturers in the system settings. You can essentially have them assigned to those different manufacturers where they will select a specific unit, or you can keep them generic where it will essentially select a duty requirement. Now, in here, you can also set other parameters like your spur pressure, or you could override the pump pressure coming from that. And you can set the sizes of that as well. Again, you can set what the inlet and outlet flow systems are as well. On the equipment menu up at the top, you can also get hot water plants with return. Now, this has a couple of other features on there. You can set the outlet flow and return temperature for the hot water recirculation pump duty calculation. But you could equally just turn that off and have a point of use water heater set up to shrink it down, cold water going in, hot water coming out. Or you could simply have hot water storage without the recirculation on there. You can see that we have the ability to add other inlets on there as well, such as gas, and you can set the consumption, and that can be used on a gas design, but it goes out of the scope of today's video. Now you can see we've also got inlet heights and outlet heights on the inlets and outlets of each of these different pieces of plant. Now if I click on our main pipe tool, if I click on that, you can see it takes the connection height of the hot water plant. Every time I do a left click, you can see I can change height to, let's say, 0.1. I think that's the outlet height of that pump. And then I can connect that into there, and it'll give me a little black horseshoe to indicate that I've changed in height on the same level. Anything that isn't connected to a flow source, i.e. a tank or a specific flow source on H2X, will show in this transparent color, meaning that it's not connected. But as soon as I connect this booster pump up to the tank, see we get an indication that that's connected and we've got a flow. The system won't calculate without a connected flow source. So if you're placing fixtures and you connect it just to a hot water plant or just to a booster pump, it won't go. It needs a tank or a flow source to run those calculations. Now, if you had to squish these up together, let's say we only had like a small corner in here, like a little pen, there is a different approach I would take to trying to connect them up, only because if you're trying to connect in close quarters, it can make it difficult to connect these together. So let's say that needs to wrap around and go and connect on the other side of this. We need to match the flow directions on here. So you can see that it's got a flow arrow on there. Water needs to come out that way and connect in this way. Water tank. Let's place that one there. Let's say for whatever reason we had quite a tight space. We had to get them in here. So let's say 900 mil. I would firstly start by connecting to my tank. You can see it's immediately trying to get me to connect to my hot water plant. To avoid that, I'd go all the way over here, left click there, bring that down, and give myself enough connection points that I need to connect into my booster pump. And I've not actually given myself enough connection points yet. So I need that, and I need it to wrap all the way around the back of here, connect into there and into there. So I'll give myself enough connection points, move my pipework back, and you can see that it's quite easy to adjust and move that into place once I've got the appropriate pipe amounts and connections in place, ready to go. Just like that. The reason it does it is you can see that hot water plant has quite a big hitbox on it. So if I bring that out to there, maybe bring that up to 1.3 meters or whatever it was, give myself a little bit of pipe connecting back in, I can move that back to there, and then I can move this up to there, drag that down like that. And it just allows me to connect them up without it automatically trying to snap into itself all the time. Now, if I use multi-pipe, I can bring that out, wrap that round, bring that to the back of the wall here, where we can set up our risers. We'll put our risers on that back wall there, like so, connecting that from floor to floor. If I try to connect directly to a riser, it's going to take my default pipe height above floor of 2.5 meters at the moment. I can change that by typing in H, or I can choose to connect to the point that I know I want to keep the height of. So that connection there at 1.3, I can drag that into there. Now, if you wanted to check that in 3D, you can switch over to the 3D mode. And take a look at how that's currently configured. So that's actually at a high level above the floor. You could maybe slot those underneath and go into a little bit more detail, but I'm going to leave it there for now. Now, to run the pipe work from those risers, you might have noticed on the run through video, I used the multi-pipe tool and I actually overlapped the pipes on top of one another. Now, using the multi-pipe tool, it's very important to make sure that you zoomed into the appropriate level, because this circle will pick up elbow points, connection points on the plant, whatever you kind of hover over. Now, I only want to connect to these 3 points on these risers and drag them down to here. But before I do a left click, I need to make sure that I bring that up to a height of 3 meters or whatever it is, just to make sure that they don't occupy the same space as the pipe I'm running over the top of. I can bring that to there, over to here, and up and across like this. Now, if you're used to using softwares like AutoCAD or Revit, they're obviously downloaded softwares. H2x is a cloud-based piece of software. So if you feel like it's taking a little bit of time to recognize your click, just give it, say, a second, maybe just a second longer than you would do, just to make sure that it hasn't already registered. Because what you don't want to end up is something like that, where I've done all of that and it's not quite refreshed yet, and I now need to go back and delete it all. So yeah, maybe just take your time with it. Now, if I go over to here, switch over to hot water, I'm going to connect my hot water return back into itself. And again, I'm going to use the procedure I did before, click away first and drag that to there to keep my nice right angles. Stamp that down on the return. And then I'm going to run my cold water flow pipe just a little bit further along there. And I'm going to drag these a little bit closer to the wall. Now, to place the fixtures down, you can select them from the drop-down menu up at the top, rotate them, and stamp them down like so. Now if I click onto that basin, I can hold control, click onto this pipe, click onto this pipe, and hit auto connect. And h2x will automatically route the pipework down to the inlet height of my basin. If I wanted to manually do that, I just need to use the branch pipe up at the top, click on the pipe I want to connect to, and then click to the inlet point. But the same drawing procedure stands for the plant. You're better off lining it up nicely or giving yourself enough pipe and then dragging it in, just in case it's snapping in a weird way. So if we were to implement that on the WC, stamp that down there. We can go back to cold water, make sure to be on the correct flow system when you're drawing. You can bring that out, keep at the height of 0.75 meters, and stamp that down there. Okay, now that is one layout drawn. We obviously need to repeat that for this bathroom here. So if I go to WC, rotate that, stamp that down, basin hot, stamp that down, maybe move that off the wall a little bit, click on this pipe, this and this holding control, hit auto connect, but you can see it's gone at a high level and it's only dropping down here, but I want this to be at a low level so I can tee off and connect my WC in as well. So I'm going to do a right click and drag to make that box. Going from right to left selects everything the box touches. Left to right is everything inside the box. So you can see there I only get the WC because that was inside the box completely. Now I'm going to select those two pipes and bring them down to a meter above the floor. And then I'm going to click on this cold water pipe and this WC and do my auto connect again. Dragging that a little bit closer in. And then I'm going to add my ball valves or my isolation valves from the drop down menu at the top. Or I can use my hotkeys by typing in A to get my ball valve like so. Now, to access your hotkeys, you can actually go to the settings and you can take a look at what's assigned to what. So I'd go and recommend taking a look at that if you are a user of h2x. Once you've got a layout like this, you can use that same right click and select to copy that entire arrangement and connect it up. You'll notice once you paste it, either using the copy and paste buttons at the bottom here or Control C and Control V on your keyboard for Control C for copy, Control V for paste, it'll select all of the items attached to that basin. So I can drag it over and make sure that those end node points connect to the hot and cold water pipes. You'll know that it's doing it because you can see the two black lines and the fittings going into place once I do it. I just need to repeat that from there to there. Okay. And now that I've got that layout done, I could copy and paste that from level to level. I do need to go and do this left-hand side, but for the sake of today's demonstration or this run-through video, I'll leave that out, just save you guys some time. It's just a case of doing that in the handed way. Now we can copy that from ground floor to level 1, and we could go and add the additional basins in. To move these pipes all together, I'm just going to select them all and move them like that. To move things independently without them having to move in like an X or Y direction, you can click on it and you can hold control and you can see that'll let you move the individual pipe. A better example would be a basin or a WC that you want to move without it affecting the pipe work, like so. Okay, now in terms of getting this stuff out of h2x, you can run results and you can run through the different result filters like we did on the speed run. You can show your index circuit, which is currently this high level here, pretty intuitively, and your index node path, currently this WC here, and you can showcase what the circulation pump duty and booster pump duty requirements would be at the pieces of plant in your plant room. So if I go to filters, pump and tank, booster pump duty, circulation pump duty, and they're shown on each of the individual units there. Now, if you wanted to do some more ancillary calculations like how long will it take for hot water to get to my basin, or what's my dead leg volume, you can go down to fixture and show dead leg wait times, dead leg lengths, dead leg volumes, and they're all shown there. And if we were to make any alterations to our arrangement of our hot water circulation, let's imagine that it actually runs all the way up to the sink. So let's bring that up and across down to, need to make sure that I do that on the return. Like so. Comes right the way to the end of that sink. We can show that that would mean that that dead leg wait time reduces significantly. Currently 2 seconds based on that. We to change that. Run our results again. Oh, we didn't add our balancing valve, that's why. So it's currently 2 seconds based on it coming across. Net that up. Add our balancing valve because we now have an additional run. That now changes itself to oh, yeah, that's why. That's tagged to the basin above. That's now less than 1/10 of a second. Now, yeah, what happened there was we've got that tagged to the basin above it. It's actually this result here that we should be looking at. Okay, now that is the extent of what I wanted to run through on this deep dive. Obviously, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments or reach out to us. You can reach out to us via the help hub in the bottom right hand corner if you are a h2x user. This will give you guidance based on our user guides, our online resources, etc. But you can always reach the support team by hitting report an issue. That will open up the chat there, and we work UK working hours, and you should expect responses within, say, 10 minutes of submitting the request. As I say, 9 to 5 UK working hours. But yeah, if you found this content useful, feel free to leave a like or subscribe to the channel. And yeah, again, thank you for watching. I'll see you later.